What's going on, Kian? And what's going on, every other homie? Hope you guys are having a good time. It is a Thursday afternoon here. It is time to get a whole lot of exciting work done. Reviewing some classes here, so figure I'll go ahead and kind of kick things off immediately. I was gonna waffle for a little bit, but Three Crows immediately here, so all good. So, Artificer, Ranger, Sorcerer, and Wizard are on the Look at Me First set of lists here. And so I figure it's a good idea to pick from those. I actually already have the Wizard open, if you can believe it. And then what do I have here? Paladin. And then I'm not logged in, so I can't see this one, but that's okay. That's not related to what Three Crows do. I think that's the Cosmonarchy tabletop stuff. First time streaming on here in a little bit as one of these D&D homebrew streams go, but we'll be making it a little bit more regular. I was sharing with Three Crow earlier that the hope is to do... the bare minimum is 2 per week, but probably I can do more than that. As far as, of course, implementing them into Foundry, that's going to take a little bit of a different set of works. But we'll work on that. And honestly, Foundry might just be a sort of stopgap solution anyway, if we end up wanting to release our own workbook and stuff like that, our own tabletop setup. We would probably want our own, potentially our own VTT, but definitely our own integration into Foundry, and we would maybe want to take a look at how to set something like that up. I'm sure there are tutorials on the internet. But yeah, Wizard, first impressions on the Wizard. Obviously, I've already seen it in action enough to come to some conclusion that there have been some pretty significant changes. I am not a guy who, as general background, has a lot of exhaustive knowledge on how the 5th edition classes work. I was a little bit more familiar with how 3.5 worked, but even that was spotty knowledge at best, and 3.5 kit got so many supplements, so it's really hard to call. That being said, 5th edition, I did build a few Wizard NPCs, and I did follow the rule set for building, I didn't break rules about it, per se. Maybe a couple of small things I ignored or whatever, but so that would be otherwise limiting, since they were only going to be featuring infrequently, shall we say. But for the most part, I had, I didn't give them, inflated spell slots or whatever. So I didn't make them turbo buffed or turbo nerfed. But I have built some wizards for NPC purposes. So I have some familiarity with the original. I'm sure I'm going to have a bunch of I guess that's probably how it was in the original. And then, Three Crow will be like, actually, no, or whatever. So no big deal there. But we're going to jump into this one and just get straight to it. Wizards are students of the true laws of magic. Scholars who shape reality through disciplined study and experimentation. Their strength lies not in bargains, devotion, or instinct, but in the relentless pursuit of knowledge, and the arrogance to believe that the secrets of the multiverse are theirs to be uncovered, understood, and exploited. One thing that I always thought was cool about the Wizard as an idea, as my understanding is that you can be Joe Schmo with no actual magical talent, but then through hard work, grit, and determination, master the art, so to speak, master the science, I suppose, of magic, which is pretty cool as a concept, and it definitely helps magic feel more like an element of the world, as opposed to a get-out-of-jail-free card for any writer, or, convenient plot device or whatever. And so I always thought that it was pretty neat. When you really examine fantasy as a theme for a work of art, but also for the purpose of a world that you build, wizards are the most interesting magic user of all of the archetypal generic magic users that you're going to find in any given world. Precisely because, a wizard archetype, a D&D wizard archetype, where they learn it and study it, it's not frequently even leveraged. It's kind of avant-garde almost for the wizard to exist to begin with, as a concept. And so it's really cool to see that that's the case. Now, I don't know if 5th edition lore or D&D lore in general actually is, they have the Muggle and non-Muggle thing from Harry Potter or whatever. Do you have wizard blood in you or whatever, genetic determinations of it. I don't know if D&D 5th edition has anything quite like that. I always took that to be more sorcerer-oriented. If you think about the archetypal nature of the arcane classes by default, setting aside Artificer, because I don't know anything about Artificer lore, shall we say, Wizard is, I learned it and earned it. Sorcerer is I was born with it. Warlock is some guy gave it to me. And so that was always kind of interesting when we're thinking about the arcane classes that don't really have a lot of overlap with other thematics. Like Druid is obviously like from nature, but do they draw their power from nature? Are they born with the ability to have nature? It's kind of ambiguous as far as I understand the lore to be. So I'm just opining a little bit here at the beginning. Because I said I was going to waffle earlier. I decided to waffle at the beginning of the class review itself. The wizard is a really cool concept, and I really like it. I think it's an important one to preserve in any world that you try to make out of a tabletop RPG world, just because that's interesting, So that's my review there for a moment. All right, first thing I'm gonna skip over some of these like table stuff because I'll revisit it later as a recap. But as a wizard, you get 1d4 hit dice, and this is something that I told 3Cry I really wanted. I really wanted to explore 1d4. I really wanted to explore low player health. I think that's very cool and interesting. I think it's already proven to be an interesting device in the Omnimod campaign that we've been running, which is donor exclusive. So if you want to get access to it, $3 a month at least on ko-fi.com/PrentigoTabletop, which will be renaming to Sunscape Tabletop at some point soon. But you can go to that link, and it will take you to where you need to go. $3 a month or more, get you early access via the Discord server that we have, as well as we have a Fluxer server as well, if you prefer that. So, but yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see some of that stuff in action. And I really like the low HP pool. I think that's great. First 2 sessions of Omnimod are on the channel publicly already. The next one will be going live on the 4th of July. Happy America Day. But yeah, it's gonna be a good time. Looks like we'll be playing session 4 on America Day as well, so that'll be fun. All right, 1d4 is obviously pretty cool, and hit points at first level, of course, 4+ con. So this is basic stuff right here. By the way, 3Cry, I don't know if this particularly matters to you, but it might be worthwhile to see if we can just limit the hit dice thing. Like, if you just know that it's a d4, you kind of already know that it's 4+ con. Like, there's never any class that does this differently, as far as I know. And so, it written out this way feels like an artifact of an eldritch time, a bygone era, So, I just figured I would throw that out there. Not that we have to go back and change it to these documents, but I'm just saying for when we were deciding to write our own books down and stuff, we probably don't need to format it quite like this. Yeah, it'll be familiar, but we don't need to be so verbose about it. At least that's my read. Maybe you disagree. Also, 1d4 or 4. Isn't this supposed to be 1d4 or 2? Or did we... I think that might be a typo, but I might also be mistaken. Proficiencies. Armor, none, of course. Daggers and quarterstaffs, yeah, that makes sense. Int and wisdom being the saving throws, makes sense as well. I don't really know what else you would do. It's not a charisma class, so. Choose 2 from Arcana, History, Insight, Investigation, Medicine, Nature, Religion, and Sleight of Hand. I think that's all fine. Also lets you have some speciality, particularly like the Sleight of Hand thing, in like trying to stealth spellcast or something like that. I can see a world where you would want to do that with the somatic component of a spell, so that's pretty neat. I think in a case where I paid a little bit more close attention to somebody trying to, like, stealth casting instead of spellcasting, right? Stealth spellcasting, or stealth casting as I'll call it. I think it's like a whole extra thing that could be even specialized in at some point by a class or something. That would be pretty neat. Max HP if you're not rolling? I don't recall deciding that. I guess, like, the point is, I mean, the thing is that it's a decision to roll or not. I guess it's... it doesn't really matter. Probably you just take away the roll. I don't think you need to have dice decide how much HP you get per level. So you can probably just say 4. But anyway, you don't need to bother dealing with that right now. I'm just... I just didn't quite remember that conversation. But the more... thinking about it irrespective of that, why do we even roll? Just get the level. Just get your hit dice plus con mod, dude. Just do that. Okay. Quarterstaff or a dagger, component patch or arcane focus, scholars pack or explorers pack, a spellbook. I guess most people don't ever go for component patch. It feels like a decision to do things when you want to be tracking ammo and stuff, Like, we don't even really precisely track ammo for, like, crossbow bolts and stuff, so we definitely aren't tracking ammo for spells in the same way either. It's just not very easy to do. Maybe Foundry could actually help us out with that if they were programmed a little bit differently, but oops, pranked. I had to clean excited spittle off of my monitor. TMI. Wizard save DC, of course, A+ prof bonus plus int mod. Yep, your primary stat there. And then arcane lore. So, of course, this is something that 3Core's flavored all of his classes with, which I think is a great way to provide some value to customizing your class. At first level and every wizard level thereafter, choose from one of your following areas of scholarship. Illustrate your wizard. If an option will grant you proficiency or a skill or tool you already are proficient in, you gain expertise instead. So then you got appraiser, proficiency investigation. You have advantage on checks made to identify magic items and their enchantments. So that's obviously really powerful for your average run in more. Like, one of the other things I really like about the lore as a side point is if you knew you were going into a dungeon as part of your early quest or something, you could pick this pretty easily, right? You could select this halfway through a dungeon or something, if you leveled up at that point. So I think that kind of thing is pretty neat. Astronomer, survival, advantage to checks made to identify constellations, planar conjunctions, and eclipses. That's pretty neat. It's kind of niche, maybe more so than the appraiser one, but it's on the DM to say, oh, this is within your character. I'll make it relevant somehow. Like maybe by doing that, you can determine weather patterns that will help you in the future or something. Whatever the case may be. Like, I can't see this. Like, I can identify that this is the constellation, but something's clouding the path really heavily, and so it almost doesn't look like that constellation. That tells me there's a storm moving in. Whatever, you can come up with something. Bestiary, nature, advantage on checks made to identify aberrations, elementals, monstrosities, and undead. Okay, interesting. Yeah, that's pretty neat. It's like being a little bit of an expert or a scholar regarding those things. That's kind of a common theme here, is being like that. Persuasion from court mage. You have advantage on checks made to negotiate with nobles, mages, and academic authorities. Yeah, that's pretty neat. Negotiating, that's pretty neat. Demonologist, religion. Identify fiends, pacts, infernal hierarchies, and summoning rites. Interesting. Okay. And then etheric, probably ethereal, right? So etheric anatomist. Medicine. You have advantage on checks made to identify magical afflictions, arcane mutations, curses, and possession. Pretty neat. I like some of the names here. I was actually when I said you get persuasion from court mage, and when I said that, it was almost like you're saying like, oh yeah, when you pick this talent in the video game, he gets this benefit or whatever. And so I was imagining a world where Cindersaur was realized as a fantasy. Some kind of like cooperative versus AI fantasy RPG. Not quite like Helldivers, but maybe. Anyway, bit of a wackadoodle idea, but we'll get there, guys, one day. Glyph reader, proficiency with Arcana, advantage on checks made to identify magical traps, wards, runes, and sigils. Neat. Esoteric historian. This is something that actually 3Co's character Theron Valus has. You gain proficiency with history. Checks made to identify cataclysms, lost empires, archmages, and old magic. Planar surveyor, perception, portals, extraplanar illusions, magic disturbances. Spell scribe, calligrapher's supplies, identify spell scrolls. Okay, that's another utilitarian one that's like related to your equipment, which is pretty neat. And then tongues. Yeah, one language of your choice. So that's pretty cool too. If you really felt like you just needed to be able to communicate better, you're gonna level up that way. That's pretty neat. Okay. I like all the lore options. I don't really. That one was like I was reading them off towards the end. I didn't have much to say about them because I was just sort of taking them in. I don't dislike any of them. I think they're all pretty good. There's also like obviously this is a formatting limitation. There's probably like loads more that could even be come up with or conceptualized, but just won't fit in the formatting that we have here. So, and I understand the pull to be tismic about your formatting and to be really specific about it. So, I get it. You've learned to cast spells through study, notation, and repeated rehearsal. First level, your spellbook contains 6 first-level wizard spells of your choice. Every time you gain a wizard level, add 2 wizard spells to your spellbook, a level you can cast. Spells that you add to your spellbook as you gain levels reflect the arcane research you conduct on your own, as well as intellectual breakthroughs you have had about the nature of the multiverse. I do have I'm rubbing up roughly against the term multiverse, not necessarily because it's not a fine term to describe Isindasor, but because it's such a tired concept elsewhere, and so I'm just like, oh my god, no, don't make it Marvel. But that's not the intention. That's just pop culture ruining a term. That's fine. Probably the nature of existence would probably be what I would write there. But anyway, that's if I was authoring every word here, that would be a different word than I would pick. You might find other spells during your adventures. You could discover a spell recorded on a scroll in an evil wizard's chest, in a dusty tome in an ancient library, or purchase one from a magical purveyor's wares. Yeah, this is something that obviously Truco's already been trying to encourage other people to help him out with, too, is like, do you got any spells? You got any spells, man? You want to give me any spells? And so that's pretty funny. When you find a wizard spell at first level or higher, you can add it to your spellbook. If it is of a spell level you can cast, and if you can spare the time to decipher and copy it. The process takes 2 hours and costs 50 gold for every level of the spell. Cost represents material components you expend as you experiment with the spell to master it, as well as the fine inks you need to record it. Once you've spent this time and money, you can prepare the spell just like your other spells. So this is a pretty steep cost, and I don't remember how steep it was before, but this tells me that getting access to spells is half the battle. Actually getting access to the resources necessary to transcribe them is almost like its own thing that you hope for as a reward for your quest and stuff. And so I'm going to have to keep this economy in mind as the dungeon master, but also pretty interesting idea regardless. Hey, it's Shambler. What's up, dude? Replacing the book. You can copy a spell from your own spellbook into another book. For example, if you want to make a backup copy of your spellbook, it's just like copying a new spell into your spellbook, but faster and easier since you understand your own notation and already know how to cast the spell. You need to spend only 1 hour and 10 gold for each level of the copied spell. If you lose your spellbook, you can use the same procedure to transcribe the spells that you have prepared into a new spellbook. Filling out the remainder of your spellbook requires you to find new spells to do so as normal. For this reason, many wizards keep backup spellbooks in a safe place. Oh, interesting. Your spellbook is a unique compilation of spells with its own decorative flourishes and margin notes. It might be a plain, functional leather volume that you received as a gift from your master, or a finely bound, gilt-edged tome you found in an ancient library. And you can create spell scrolls by copying spells from your spellbook onto fine parchment, 1 hour and 10 gold per level of the spell. When you finish copying the spell, you must expend the number of spell slots necessary to cast the spell to complete the scroll. Oh, that's pretty neat. 50 gold is the same as default? Okay. That's pretty pricey, but I will just nod at that. I'll take it at your word. When you complete a long rest, choose a number of wizard spells from your spellbook equal to your int mod, plus prof bonus, plus wizard level. These are your prepared spells. So, like, I think this would be like 5? No, 6 maybe? I can't remember Theron's int mod. Hold on, I have it open. Yeah, 3. That's what I thought it was. So yeah, he's got 6 spells, prepared spells. Spells you add to your spellbook by gaining wizard levels must be of a level noted by the list below, unless a feature says otherwise. And then, yeah, I think this is reflected in the table as well. And then the spell slots, we've already gone over the spell slot formula in another stream, so we're not really too bothered by that. When you cast a wizard spell, you expend the number of spell slots necessary to match the spell's level. Yep. Okay. You can cast a wizard spell as a ritual if that spell has a ritual tag and you have the spell in your spellbook. You don't need to have the spell prepared. Okay, interesting. So you can leave stuff as a ritual later, but obviously that takes longer on a combat spell. And then you can use an arcane focus as a spellcasting focus for your wizard spells. Yeah, pretty simple. Okay. And then we get into first, second, and third level. Okay. Favorite studies. Choose from one school of magic among abjuration, conjuration, divination, enchantment, evocation, illusion, necromancy, and transmutation. Copy a wizard spell of one of your chosen schools into the spellbook. The golden time you must spend to copy that spell are halved. In addition, choose one spell from each of your chosen schools that is in your spellbook. That spell is always prepared for you. When you complete a long rest, you may replace one of those always prepared spells. Okay. That's pretty neat. Obviously, it lets you be somewhat of a specialist. Typically, these the spell schools don't typically matter, so I'm a fan of anything that gives them value, though I will acknowledge that if something really doesn't matter that much, and then it starts to matter a lot because of one particular mechanic, that can give you mechanic whiplash, and then maybe you're struggling a little bit from that perspective. But overall, I don't hate that idea. I think it's neat. Yeah, the only thing that you might end up feeling like this doesn't give you that much, but considering you get a pretty significant reduction in cost and you can get up to 3 different schools by the time you hit 3rd level, that can be a pretty heavy price saver, you know? So, money saver. At 1st level, you recover additional magical energy through disciplined study. Once per long rest, when you complete a short rest, you may recover all of your spell slots instead of only half. Okay, so this is basically saying, you know, as long as I've not done this before, since I've last had a long sleep, I can get that benefit. So that's pretty good. At 2nd level, you learn to weave invisible wards that shield you from physical harm. As an action on your turn, you may expend a 1st level spell slot to surround yourself with a protective magical force for 8 hours. Mage Armor counts as a 1st level abjuration spell for you. Your AC becomes 13 plus your int mod. That's pretty good. The effect ends early if you don armor, if it is dispelled by a spell or effect such as Dispel Magic, or if you fall unconscious. So Mage Armor just being a thing you get as a wizard is, I think, actually really neat as a way to separate them from the other arcane classes, which typically have some other method of giving themselves some effective defense. And it being, you know, a dedicated feature that still interacts with your spell slot economy is actually, I think, a great choice, since it still feels spell-oriented and even does so mechanically, but has special rules that are more fitting of a feat. It also helps normalize the idea that some features may interact with spell slots. If they're arcane feats, they may consume a spell slot as a generic cost, and that's fine. So I think that's really neat, actually, and it bodes well for systems design writ large, you know, irrespective of classes. Right. The entry-level subclass features as a class feature, it makes sense, too. You're talking about favorite studies there. At 2nd level, your reflexive understanding of magical structure allows you to refine spells as you cast them. When you complete a long rest, you may choose 3 of the following styles of spellcraft to represent your wizard's favored formulas for the day. When you cast a wizard cantrip or a wizard spell of 1st level or higher, you may choose 1 creature affected by that spell, and granted a bonus to its saving throw, equal to your intelligence mod. Now, okay, obviously these have... So Abjuration is a spell school, but you don't need to only use this with Abjuration spells, presumably. Although maybe all spells that buff allies or creatures are Abjuration spells. I actually don't know if that's something that's true. Conjuration, when you cast a wizard spell 1st level or higher, you gain temporary hit points equal to your intelligence modifier plus the spell's level. Lasts for 1 hour. Okay, that's pretty neat. Just give you a little bit of extra durability. Divination is choose 1 creature affected by it, grant a bonus to the next attack roll or ability check it makes within 1 minute equal to your int mod. This is so Abjuration is saving throw. Divination is attack roll or ability check. Okay. Enchantment is targeted by that spell fails its saving throw to resist becoming charmed. You may add your int mod to charisma ability checks you make against that creature while it is charmed. Okay. I wonder if maybe it doesn't even matter if they failed. Maybe this would be a way to, like, make this more valuable or something. But maybe I'm just not seeing how effective the utility is. Because in this particular case, you're picking something out of the context. Like, you're picking it after a long rest, right? And then you're picking this, and then later on in your uptime as a character, you get to conditionally use it. Otherwise, it doesn't do anything. Like if you roll poorly and then the thing fails. So I don't know. I don't know if this means that you should take your int mod and subtract it from their roll to resist becoming charmed. So it's easier for you to charm people. That might be it, but maybe that's too powerful in the converse end. So I don't know what 3Co thinks of that. That's just where I'm running up into it. Okay, that's also what I thought might be going on 3Co. But cantrip or 1st level spell of higher. You deal damage to a creature, the cantrip or spell. You may add your int mod to the total damage dealt. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, so I'm supposed to take a look at Charm person. Wisdom saving throw. Right. So I'm familiar with how this one works, but as far as I'm reading here, the creature targeted by the spell fails its saving throw, and only then can you add your int mod to charisma ability checks. Only while it's charmed. So it seems like you have to first succeed a spell before you can use this spellcraft, whereas the others appear to not have too much of a condition in the same way. Like, there's the deal damage to a creature, but that's not really too conditional in our rule set. So that's the only thing I was wondering about. We cast a minor illusion cantrip even if it is not one of your known cantrips. Cast it as a bonus action instead of an action. Both an image and a sound. Oh, that's pretty neat. That's a neat roleplay one. That would be like if Shoulder was a wizard, right? Like the actual Shoulder character. When you use the help action to assist a creature with an ability check, and you are both proficient in the skill that is being used as part of the check, you may add your int mod. Oh, okay. Necromancy. When you cast a wizard cantrip or wizard spell, first level or higher, and you reduce a creature to 0 hit points, regain hit points equal to your int mod. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. These are really interesting. I can already tell you I will forget to use them when I build wizard NPCs because they are particularly specific. But maybe I'll remember. Maybe I'm not giving future me enough credit. Power. You gain first level spell slots equal to your int mod. Oh, that's going to be really powerful. But they can only be used as part of the spell slots expended to cast a wizard spell at 5th level or higher. Oh, that's a neat little trick. So you get extra credit towards higher level spells. When you cast a wizard spell at 1st level or higher that animates, conjures, creates, or summons a construct, creature, or object, you may gain grant one of them temporary hit points equal to your int mod plus the spell's level. Okay. Theurgy. You may cast a light cantrip even if it is not one of your cantrips known. Number of creatures and objects up to your int mod within 30 feet of you. Now, when you say you may cast light on a number of creatures and objects, is that you may cast light on a number of these creatures or objects simultaneously, or do you have to do it 3 separate times and it doesn't time? I don't think light has a... I think you can already do it to multiple targets, but it takes separate actions, I'm pretty sure. So that answers my question automatically. Potentially a +6 on bonus on charisma checks against a creature for an hour if you can charm them. So yeah, okay, so it's just a little bit more investment into that one then. When you cast a wizard cantrip or a wizard spell at 1st level or higher that deals damage, you may select a number of that cantrip or spell's damage dice up to your int mod and change their damage type. Okay. Transmutation. That's pretty neat, yeah. And then War Magic. While you're under the effects of Mage Armor feature, if a creature would deal damage to you, you may spend your reaction to reduce that damage by your int mod. Cool. Okay. Yeah, these are nice little... They're almost on the same level of, like, the arcane lore, but they're a little bit more potent, and I can definitely see them being helpful. It's a lot to remember, but we are okay having our player characters have a lot to remember here, I think. My microphone won't turn off. All right, I think we're good now, boys. I don't know what that was all about. Simultaneously target multiple entities. Yeah. Oh, okay. Default light ends if you cast it again. Okay, good to know. So I was wrong in my expectation of power for the default light, but I was correct in what I was saying about this one. So spell mastery. So by the way, of course, at 3rd level, 2nd and 3rd level, you also get favored studies and you get arcane lore. That's pretty neat. At 3rd level, your understanding of lesser formula becomes so complete that you can cast them freely. You no longer need to expend spell slots to cast wizard spells at 1st level. If those spells are from a school magic You chose with the favorite studies feature. This is very cool. It builds on the existing tech, shall we say. Yeah. That does work pretty nicely. Pardon me. I don't know why I'm now having a build-up. You no longer need to expend... Yeah, so that's pretty cool. That builds on the previous sort of tech available to the wizard. It also helps alleviate some of the issues with not being able to cast lower level spells once you remove... once you get to higher level stuff. It lets you focus more on the higher level spell casting, which I think is pretty neat as far as wizards go. Yeah, exactly, Shambler. Exactly. I mean, obviously, ideally, all the math stuff would just be handled for you, but... So, okay, here we go. 4th level, complete a long rest. You may choose one 2nd level spell. Gain the benefit. There's a typo here where benefit is misspelled. Only one of your 2nd level wizard spells can benefit from this effect at a time. At 5th level, you may choose one 3rd level. Okay. So you basically remove the spell slot cast from a couple of spells. A pair of, one spell at a 2nd level, one 3rd level spell. So, yes, you can walk around as a 5th level wizard, hurling infinite fireballs or having infinite spell counterspells. Pretty powerful. Pretty powerful. At 3rd level, your ambition outpaces the caution of lesser mages. When you gain a wizard level, you may forego both wizard spells you would normally add to your spellbook and add instead one wizard spell whose level is no higher than your wizard level plus your prof bonus minus 1. So let's think about Theron in this case. Turns level 3, so he can add a 5th level spell because 3 plus 3 minus 1. He turns 3rd level and then... Yeah, so 3 plus 3 minus 1 is... Okay. In addition, when you find a wizard spell in the world, you may copy it in your spellbook regardless of level. When you cast or upcast a wizard spell whose level is higher than your wizard level, you must succeed on an int saving throw. On a failed save, your max HP is reduced by 1d4 for each level by which the spell exceeds your wizard level, and the reduction lasts until you complete a long rest. If this effect would reduce your maximum hit points below 0, you finish the casting of a spell and then die at the end of your turn. Presumably, go down at the end of your turn? Or is it actually is it meant to bypass the death rules? That's pretty funny. Arcane Tradition. At 4th level, you descend fully into our chosen Arcane Tradition. Your choice grants you features at 4th level, 5th level, and 6th level, and represents your career expertise in a particular school of magic or arcane scholarship. Your advancements may come as a result of time spent learning from advanced colleagues, knowledge uncovered during adventures, or your own sheer genius in reverse engineering of Arcana. Okay. School of Abjuration, or Masters of Negation, Warding, and Magic Refusal. Surviving magic, but dictating which magic is allowed to matter. Okay. Meant to require a full revive, okay. That makes sense. Like full revive as in revivify. You just straight up die. That's pretty good for what it offers you, so. Alright. Abjuration spell at 1st level or higher. You may choose one creature you can see within 30 feet. Gains temp HP equal to 1d8 plus your wizard level. Or it may immediately end one magical effect. Cool. So this is more supportive. Number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. And it's every time you use an abjuration, right? Because it's a school of abjuration. That makes sense. 5th level, your countermeasures become nearly flawless. Counterspell or dispel magic, add your prof bonus to the ability check. When you successfully counter and a spell with counterspell or dispel magic, you regain hit points equal to twice the level of the spell affected. That's pretty neat. 6th level, your wards harden into instinct. You have advantage on saving throws against spells. Very nice. In addition, when you succeed on a saving throw against a spell, you gain resistance to all damage dealt by that spell. Okay. So you basically turn like half damage into quarter damage, if it's applicable. Yeah, I like that though. I like the paying the ultimate price. School of Blade Singing. Blade Singers master a tradition of wizardry that incorporates swordplay and dance. Originally created by elves, this tradition has been adopted by non-elf practitioners who honor and expand on the elven ways. When you choose this tradition at 4th level, you gain proficiency with the performance skill, if you're not already proficient, proficiency with light armor, and proficiency with one type of one-handed melee weapon of your choice. 4th level, when you choose this tradition, you can invoke an elven magic called the Blade Song, provided you aren't wearing medium or heavy armor, or using a shield. It graces you with supernatural speed, agility, and focus. You can use a bonus action to start the Blade Song, which lasts for 1 minute. It ends early if you are incapacitated, if you don medium or heavy armor or a shield, or if you use 2 hands to make an attack with a weapon. You can also dismiss the Blade Song at any time with no action required. While your Blade Song is active, you gain the following benefits. Bonus AC equal to your int mod. Your walking speed increases by 10 feet. Advantage on acrobatics. Bonus to any con saving throw you make to maintain your concentration on a spell equal to your int mod. Okay. Use your int mod again, basically. Or use your int mod on your con check. You can use this feature a number of times to get your prof bonus. Okay, that's pretty interesting. So basically... Lasts for a minute. So it basically lets you be a little bit more nimble, and yeah, that's pretty neat. It's a big change and shift in what you've probably been doing up until this point, but not necessarily. I guess it probably just, that's like the, this is going to be one of those nicher classes, but I mean, you guys, we're on page, you know, it's like page 5, page 4.5 is what starts the subclasses, and it goes all the way to 11. So I think maybe we're going to be here for a little bit looking at the subclasses. This is where 3Crow puts a lot of his heart and soul into the selections later on in the levels. So anyway, that makes sense. Extra attack. 5th level, you can attack twice. Yeah, pretty good. Cast one of your cantrips instead of an attack. Very good. Very thematic. 6th level, your Blade Song flourishes. While Blade Song is active, you can use your in mod for the attack and damage rolls of the weapon. Count as magical. Pretty good. Yeah, it's a cool one, and it takes a little bit of effort to understand it, and it is a deviation from most people's understanding of wizards. All of that doesn't matter. It's cool. It's good to have as an option. School of Conjuration. Wizards of the School of Conjuration master transposition, displacement, and the reliable arrival of what ought not to be there. Art lies in putting the right thing in the right place at the decisive moment. When you use this tradition choose this tradition at 4th level, you can briefly fold space around yourself. Teleport up to 30 feet in an unoccupied space you can see. So that's basically Misty Step, right? As a bonus action. If a willing creature of your size or smaller is within 30 feet with you, you may swap places with it instead. Little revocatus in here, but it's about willing instead of, you know, anything. When you teleport using this feature, you don't provoke opportunity attacks from other creatures. Use this feature a number of times, you get your prof bonus. So this is going to be something that's used way more often, which is pretty neat. At 5th level, your conjurations become difficult to break. Concentration. Taking damage cannot force you to lose cons. That's pretty good. And if you become incapacitated, concentration ends normally. That's pretty neat, just to stay focused. And then at 6th level, creatures and objects you conjure arrive bolstered by your mastery. Any creature or object summoned by or created by your conjuration spell gains 30 bonus hit points. If it is a creature, its natural weapon attacks count as magical. If it is an object, any damage dealt as a result of attacking with it counts as magical. That's pretty good. That's obviously pretty good for things like I conjure a weapon or something, right? School of Divination. Wizards of the School of Divination read omens, probabilities, and hidden truths. They do not merely seek the future, they interfere with it. Lesser Portents. When you choose this tradition at 4th level, divination becomes one of your surest tools. When you complete a short or long rest, roll 1d20 and record the numbers rolled. You can replace any attack roll, saving throw, or ability check made by you or a creature you can see with this foretelling roll. So this is the lucky or portents or whatever it is, right? It's called lesser portents, but there's like I think there's this is that subclass, I guess. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. And then You must choose to do so before the DM describes the outcome of the roll or states whether it succeeds or fails. Oh, okay, interesting. In addition, you always have the augury spell prepared. Doesn't count as against the spells that you can prepare. Okay. 5th level, you open your awareness to unnatural truths. When you complete a long rest, choose one of the following benefits until the next long rest. Dark vision, 60 feet. Existing dark vision by 30 feet. Read any language. See invisible creatures and objects within 10 feet of you that are within line of sight. You can see into the ethereal plane within 10 feet of you. Interesting. Yeah. Tracking other planes is always a tough one for the DMs, but I'll figure it out. And the divination spell is prepared. Your foresight allows to interfere with fate directly. Complete a long rest, roll 3 d20s, record the numbers rolled. Still roll or reroll one of these d20s on a short rest as part of your lesser importance feature. Place any attack roll, saving throw, or ability check. Yeah. Rolling this way once per round. Okay, so that's where you get even more of the rolls. Yeah, pretty neat. I mean, being able to just kind of snap your fingers and change reality is obviously a pretty cool ability. So, I do wonder if only getting 1 d20 on 4th level is quite epic enough. But we can run it. We can see it once Theron gets 4th level, if he chooses this one. Which, spoiler, I don't think he's going to. But we'll check it out, you know. It's cool. School of Enchantment. Wizards of the School of Enchantment alter motive, seize attention, and bend weaker wills. Their best spells are not explosive evocations, but softly whispered commands. Yeah, I have a feeling, you know, this one does remind me. Okay. Instinctive Charm. Mine recoils against aggression with elegant deflection. Creature you can see within 30 feet makes an attack against you. You may use your reaction to force it to make a wisdom saving throw. Failed save, it must choose a new attack or lose the attack. Creature immune to being charmed has advantage on the saving throw. You may use this feature a number of times equal to your prof bonus. Pretty useful. I like the idea of a wizard just being like, you don't want to attack me. Suddenly chooses to attack the next most vulnerable person. Your enchantments can entangle more than one mind at once. Enchantment spell 1st level or higher that targets only one creature. Target a 2nd creature. Of course. Yeah. 6th level, your charms leave deeper marks than emotion alone. When a creature fails a saving throw against one of your enchantment spells that charms it, you may alter its memory of the last 1 minute immediately before the spell took effect. Okay, false memory must remain broadly plausible. Succeeds on a later in check against your wizard save DC, realizes its memory is altered, fails its check, and instead justifies the memory to the best of its ability. May repeat the check again after 24 hours. Well, this is obviously very very potent, very powerful. Great fodder for a good roleplay, that's for sure. Wizards of the School of Evocation do not merely cast destructive spells. Oh no. Oh no. I'm noticing a trend. They perfect the clean application of force. They believe the power should be exact, overwhelming, and undeniable. Potent spellcasting. When you choose this tradition at 4th level, your spells always strike with meaningful force. When you deal damage to a creature with a cantrip or a wizard spell of 1st level or higher, you may re-roll a number of damage die up to your proficiency bonus and choose whether to keep the new numbers. You may only re-roll each damage die once this way. So, deal damage, re-roll a number of damage die, go to your prof bonus, choose whether to keep new numbers. Oh, and you can only re-roll this damage once. Okay, that makes sense. But this is this any time you do it? Is that, am I reading that right? It's when you use a 1st level or higher, but it's also a cantrip. It's a number of damage die up to your proficiency bonus, but can you do that? Can you do that re-roll multiple times? Or if you say you cast a spell, your prof bonus at 4th level is 1 to 2 is 2, and then 3 to 4 is 3, and then 5 to 6 is 4. So, say you cast a spell, that has 2 damage, 2d6. And then you cast the same spell again. Can you only reroll one of the second cast, or can you reroll both? Like, does each reroll consume one of your prof bonus uses? Or can you just repeatedly reroll the damage each time? Because I think rerolling the damage each time, basically having advantage on the damage roll, is kind of neat. But is it a permanent thing? Or, you know what I mean? Is it something you always have when you take the subclass? Be 1 per die. So it expends the use 1 per die, right? So if it was a 1d8, 1d10 because of like Firebolt, you cast it 3 times and reroll each time, then you can't do it again because you've rerolled 3 times because that's your prof bonus. That's my understanding of it. Okay. At 5th level, your mastery magnifies destructive formula. Once on each of your turns, when you deal damage with a cantrip or wizard spell at 1st level or higher, you may roll 1 additional damage die when calculating that spell's total damage dealt. In addition, you may choose any 2 evocation spells of 1st level or higher from your spellbook. Those 2 spells are always prepared for you and don't count against the number of spells you can prepare. When you complete a long rest, you may replace one of those 2 spells with a different evocation spell from your spellbook. So basically, you get evocation preparation, like bonus evocation preparation. That's pretty neat. I mean, it's related to School of Evocation, so that makes sense. Force a spell beyond its normal limits. 1st level or higher that deals damage. Deal maximum damage with the spell. Each time you activate this feature, your maximum hit points are reduced by 1d4 plus 1d4 per level of the spell above 1st. And it reacts until you complete a long rest. Okay, so this is another mechanism behind the, like, going beyond your power or whatever. Yeah, it's pretty neat. Obviously, if you just need to make sure you bang this guy out real quick, you know, you're cast a fucking 5th level spell that can deal up to, like, you know, 60 damage or something and just choose to do it. That's pretty good. Even if it makes you die. It's like, I must destroy this thing. No. Powerful. Wizards of the School of Illusion know that perception governs reality more often than steel does. Their art lies in creating possibilities so convincing that the world begins to obey them. Illusions become fluid. In range of an illusion spell you create with a duration of 1 minute or longer. Bonus action to change the nature of that illusion or move it up to 60 feet. If you move the illusion, you may animate its movement as though it were real. Okay. When a creature makes an attack roll against you, you may use your reaction to interpose an illusory duplicate of yourself. Attack automatically misses you and the illusion vanishes immediately after. You may use this feature a number of times you go to your prof bonus. That's pretty good. Briefly real, when you cast illusion spell 1st level or higher, you may choose one inanimate, non-magical object that is part of the illusion and make it real for 1 minute. Objects must fit within a 30-foot cube and cannot directly deal damage or duplicate a magic item. For example, you might create the illusion of a bridge and make it real long enough for your allies to pass over. Yeah. Or you might create the illusion of a ladder and make it real long enough for your allies to climb up. Alternatively, you might create the illusion of a treasure hoard and convince a creature that it is real, or create illusory difficult terrain and make it real long enough to impede a foe's advance. Creature succeeds on an investigation check to determine that it is an illusion. They can see through the illusion, but are still impeded its temporary physical characteristics. That's really cool. Being able to just kind of quickly shape reality temporarily. Okay, gotcha. Thank you for that clarification. School of Lore. Wizards of the School of Lore are scholars of the spell itself, not merely what magic does, but how all magic is structured beneath its surface. Arcane adaptation, memory, and thorough understanding. When you choose this tradition at 4th level, you learn to alter the substance of spells as you cast them. When you cast a wizard spell that deals acid, cold, fire, lightning, necrotic, radiant, or thunder damage, you may change that damage to another damage type from that list. Once on each of your turns, when you cast a wizard spell, you may increase its range by 30 feet if it has a range other than self or touch. Interesting. Prodigious memory. 5th level, you can seize a spell from your own book and hold it perfectly in mind. As a bonus action, choose one wizard spell in your spellbook that is not prepared. It becomes prepared for you until you complete a short or long rest. You may use this feature a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier and recover all expended uses when you complete a long rest. So you could just do this as part of your... Like, you don't have to do this in combat, obviously. It is listed as a bonus action, but presumably it doesn't... It's, you know, since it's until short or long rest, you can just kind of do this at the start. But you might want to keep the slot open in case you need something in particular, so that's why it would be a bonus action there. It's pretty neat. As a 6th level, your command of magical structure lets you imitate what you witness. A creature you see within 60 feet casts a spell at 6th level or lower from the wizard spell list. Use your reaction to memorize its structure. For the end of your next long rest, that spell casts those in your spellbook and prepared for you. You can only do this once. That's pretty powerful, of course. Very nice. Stuff that skips over the spellbook requirement for the wizard obviously has to be done with a careful hand. And so I respect that it's only like once or what have you, you know? Yeah, oh shit, I forgot I need that spell button. Or I didn't know I would need it, but here it is. School of Necromancy study the traffic between life, death, and the souls tethered to the flesh. Their art lies not only in raising the dead, but in extracting power from mortality itself. When you choose this tradition at 4th level, an undead you create answer with unusual vigor. Whenever you create one or more undead using a wizard spell, each creature created or raised this way gains bonus hit points equal to your wizard level plus the level of that spell, and adds your proficiency bonus to the damage of its weapon attacks. So, gain bonus HP equal to your wizard level plus the spell level, and then your prof bonus gets added to the damage. Animate Dead is always prepared for you. Cool. Insured to Undeath. At 5th level, long intimacy with death alters your own body. Resistance to necrotic damage. Your maximum HP cannot be reduced against your will. This feature can prevent the reduction of your maximum hit points as a result of your Temptation of Power feature. Yeah, that makes sense. In addition, Danse Macabre is always prepared for you. I actually don't know what that one is. Five small or medium corpses. Pierce up to 5 small or medium corpses. Each corpse immediately stands up and becomes undead. Zombie, skeleton. Okay. That's pretty good. Command Undead. At 6th level, your will can seize control of the dead. As an action, choose one undead creature you can see within 60 feet. Must make a charisma saving throw against your wizard save DC. Failed save, it becomes friendly to you and obeys your commands for 24 hours. If its int is 8 or higher, it repeats the save at the end of each hour, ending the effect on success. Once you successfully command an undead with this feature, you cannot do so again until you complete a long rest. Create Undead is always prepared for you. Okay. Yeah, that's a pretty powerful one, and I imagine a lot of people are going to be excited about being necromancers with that one. And here's the School of Power. Wizards of the School of Power spend their lives studying epic magic, spells that send ripples through the weave when their incantations are uttered. At the risk of their own destruction and of drawing the ire of the gods, these wizards pioneered the search for the sublime. 7th Circle Ambition. When you choose this tradition at 4th level, you may add one 7th level wizard spell to your spellbook. It is always prepared for you and does not count against your number of spells you can prepare. Yeah, and then there's 8th and 9th, yeah. First time you cast a spell each day, you have an advantage. That's pretty neat. Obviously, it's pretty straightforward, right? It's 7th, 8th, 9th, so they're all the same in that way, but pretty cool, because otherwise you don't actually get access to those levels, those spells, without some other like game-specific intervention, so it's pretty neat. Wizards of the School of Summoning are not content merely to open doors. They study how to keep what answers useful, loyal, and terrifyingly present. How to keep what answers the door. Yeah, what answers the knock. Their art lies in maintaining magical allies as stable battlefield realities. When you choose this tradition at 4th level, your summoned creatures arrive under firmer control. Creatures summoned summoned or created by your wizard spells gain bonus HP. Go to your wizard level plus the level of the spell. And advantage on saving throws against being charmed, frightened, banished, or dismissed. While you're within 30 feet of one of your summoned creatures, you have advantage on concentration checks made to maintain the spell that summoned or created it. Makes sense. At 5th level, the bond between you and your summons becomes reciprocal. Once per round, when you cast a wizard cantrip or spell with a range other than self, you may cause a spell to originate from one summoned creature you can see within 60 feet instead of yourself. That's pretty cool. When you complete a long rest, you may choose any one summon or conjure spell from a spellbook whose casting results in the summoning or conjuring of a creature. You always have that spell prepared. Okay, only one spell can benefit from this feature at a time. At 6th level, your summoned hosts become difficult to disperse. The first time each round, one of your summoned creatures would be reduced to 0 hit points. It instead remains at 1. Each round, too. That's really good. That's not just like first time, period. In addition, when a summoned creature disappears because your concentration on the spell ends, it may immediately make one weapon attack against a creature within its reach, or use one innate action available in its stat block before vanishing. Very cool. Very cool. Little last gasp. School of Theurgy. Apply arcane discipline to divine structure, studying miracles as though they were just another branch of higher magic. Some are reverent, others are merely audacious enough to dissect the divine. When you choose this tradition at 4th level, you learn to force a moment of sacred shape through wizardry. When you cast a wizard spell of first level or higher, choose one of the following effects. One creature you can see within 30 feet regains hit points equal to the spell's level plus 1. One creature damaged by the spell takes additional radiant damage equal to the spell's level plus 1. Okay. So you either heal or increase the damage. In addition, you learn Guiding Bolt. Okay. Arcane Priesthood. At 5th level, your scholarship reaches further into Divine Practice. 2 cleric spells of 3rd level or lower. They count as wizard spells for you and are added to your spellbook and are always prepared for you. When you complete a long rest, you may replace one of those spells with another cleric spell of 3rd level or lower. Pretty neat. At 6th level, you may replace one of these spells with another cleric spell of 4th level or lower instead. So you increase the power at 6th level, so that's another element of scaling. Miracle by Formula. At 6th level, you will learn to unwind divinity through formula. Your Channel Arcana features improve. When you cast a wizard spell of 1st level or higher, you may choose one of the following effects instead. 60 feet regains hit points equal to 1d4 plus the spell's level. Yeah, that's an improvement. And then it's a marginal improvement, I guess, but it's still pretty... Obviously, it's pretty good, because it's like anytime you cast a spell, you can get a little bit of healing. And then, creature damaged by the spell, yeah, is the same thing. Lastly, you may choose 2 additional cleric spells of 5th level or lower. They count as wizard spells for you and are added to your spellbook. 2 of 5th level or lower, okay. And they don't replace the ones from Arcane Priesthood either. School of Transmutation. Wizards of Schools of Transmutation believe reality is mutable at every level. Matter, flesh, and force are all merely conditions waiting to be revised. When you choose this tradition at 4th level, your study of mutable form becomes instinctive. Alter self without expending spell slots. Cast this away, you cannot do so again. Okay, you can only do it once. In addition, while under the effects of Alter Self, you have advantage on charisma checks made to convince creatures that your new persona is real. Creatures have disadvantage on the first investigation check they make to determine that your appearance is an illusion. Master Transmuter. At 5th level, your transmutations can produce lasting refinements. Complete a long rest, choose 2 of the following benefits. You may gain these benefits until you complete a long rest. Dark Vision or existing Dark Vision, proficiency in con saving throws, resistance to one of the following damage types, Acid, Cold, Fire, Force, Lightning, or Thunder. Select this benefit twice if you want 2. Your walking speed increases by 10 feet, and you can take the dash action as a bonus action up to 3 times per short rest. Okay. Once per round, when you cast a wizard spell at 1st level or higher, you don't provoke opportunity attacks from other creatures until the end of your turn. Oh, it's kind of neat. Transmuter's renewal. At 6th level, your command of bodily alteration approaches miracle. As an action, you may touch one creature and produce one of the following effects. Restore hit points 5d8 plus wizard level. Pretty good. End one curse afflicting the target. End one condition affecting the target from among blinded, deafened, charmed, frightened, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, or stunned. Restore one severed body part, provided you have the part. Okay, cool. You can bring some dude's arm back. Once you use this feature, you cannot do so again until you complete a long rest or activate Arcane Recovery. Okay, that's pretty neat, actually, adding in the Arcane Recovery part. Alright, we're down to the final page here. School of War Magic. Wizards of the School of War Magic refine spellcasting for the battlefield. Quick defenses, punishing counters, and relentless concentration under pressure. Their art lies in staying alive long enough to make everyone else regret that fact. Power Surge. When you choose this tradition at 4th level, you can capture loose magical violence and turn it outward. When you successfully cast Counterspell or Dispel Magic, when you succeed on a saving throw against a spell, or when you successfully block an attack with Shield, you gain 1 Power Surge to a maximum number of surges equal to your prof bonus. On each of your turns, when you deal damage with a wizard cantrip or spell, you may expend 1 Power Surge to deal additional force damage equal to 1d8 plus wizard level to 1 creature damaged by the spell. When you roll for initiative, if you have no Power Surges remaining, you recover 1 Power Surge. Okay, cool. It's a pretty conditional thing to get Power Surge, but if you've specified your character in such a way that they can do that pretty frequently, and then you also get 1 base every time you start a combat, that's pretty good. It does incorporate as like an extra system running. At 5th level, your concentration is armored by Spellcraft. While you're concentrating on a spell, plus 2 bonus to AC and saving throws. Very nice. When the spell you are concentrating on ends as a result of failed concentration check, you manage to retain a fragment of the spell's power. Gain temp HP equal to 1d4 plus the level of the spell it was, if it was 1st level or higher. These temp HP last for 1 minute. Neat. Deflecting Shroud. At 6th level, defensive magic lashes back at nearby enemies. When you cast Shield, Counterspell, or Dispel Magic, you may choose 1 creature within 60 feet of you that you can see. If you do, you may immediately expend 1 Power Surge to deal 1d8 plus your wizard level force damage to that creature. In addition, you always have the Counterspell, Dispel Magic, and Shield spells prepared if they're in your spellbook. Okay. Supreme Intellect. At 6th level, your arduous study and mastery of spellcraft shatters the ceiling of your mind. Your intelligence score increases by 2. The maximum of your intelligence score becomes 22. In addition, you may choose one spell from your spell book to be your signature spell. That spell is always prepared for you and doesn't count against the number of spells you can prepare each day. You may cast your signature spell once per short or long rest without expending spell slots or material components. When you cast a spell this way, you may choose one of the following effects. Potency. Choose one creature affected by the spell. That creature suffers the spell's maximum damage if you cast a spell that deals damage. If the creature succeeds on a saving throw to resist the spell's damage, it suffers half of the spell's damage instead. Spell's max damage. Precision. Choose one creature affected by the spell. The creature suffers a penalty to its saving throw against this casting of the spell equal to your intelligence modifier. Once you cast your signature spell using this feature, you can't do so again using this feature until you complete a long rest. Cool. Very neat. Well, that's the wizard. I like the little thing at the end there where it was giving us a 6th level feature. Definitely a cool one to be looking at. And I am hopeful that we get to see some of that in action, because the wizards are cool. Like I said at the very beginning, wizards are very neat. I'm excited to see it demonstrated in action for sure, and of course, I like the arcane lore, which you get every level. Pretty neat stuff. So there it is, the wizard class taken a look at. We'll be moving on to artificer, and then we'll see how I am feeling. Oh, that's supposed to be on the other monitor. I've been live for an hour, so yeah, it takes about an hour per class. It seems like I'm going to take a brief bathroom break, and then when I return, we'll be looking at some more stuff. The Artificer is coming up, and oh my god, it's 27 fucking pages, so it might take longer than an hour. We'll see what's up. BRB. I have returned, homies. Artificer might be the most likely to have suggested changes from you, original spin, and really try to give the class what I think its proper identity should be. Thank you, thank you. I was just doing tech support. So, yeah, I figured the Artificer clearly must have had a lot of effort put into it, judging by the fact that we're at 27 pages. I have about an hour. You know, it takes about an hour per class, it seems like. So, if I don't finish it, which I don't think I'm getting through 27 pages of, of detailed class write-up stuff in an hour. So, however much progress we make here is what we'll make. And then, as mentioned earlier, my plan is to do more than one stream per week for a little bit. This week, maybe not as much because I've got a double feature tournament. I've got Saturday and Sunday games. Next week, I only have Saturday games. That'll be fine. I'll handle it. So, but yeah, exactly what Three Crow said in the chat. Yeah, always come back to the remainder in the stream. But that's not going to affect, the 2-month deadline, so to speak, of having all of these. In fact, I really don't think it's going to take that long. I think we'll be all right. We'll be all right. Okay, yeah, fair enough then, Three Crow. Well, Ranger will be on the list for after Artificer, if not directly after, because I also have the Paladin pulled up, so I might do that. But, oh no, I guess Ranger was on... I'm going through your Look at Me next thing. So... Sorcerer was the other one. So I might do Artificer, then Sorcerer, then Ranger, but however I do it, Ranger's on the Look at Me Next list. So. Okay. With that said, The Artificer. That was the name of a campaign I was working on for StarCraft 1 back in the day. Masters of Invention. Artificers use ingenuity and magic to unlock extraordinary capabilities in objects. Artificers use a variety of tools to channel their arcane power. The magic of artificers is tied to their tools and their talents, and few other characters can produce as well as an artificer. As an artificer, you gain the following class features: 1d8 plus artificer level for your hit points, okay. Light, medium armor, and shield. Simple weapons, tinker's tools, dexterity, intelligence. Arcana, history, insight, investigation, medicine, nature, perception, and sleight of hand. A thinking man's somewhat physical character is what I'm getting so far. Following equipment: leather armor or scale mail, simple weapon, tinker's tools, scholar's pack or explorer's pack, artificer's hammer. Okay, artificer save DC, which is A plus prof bonus plus int mod. Oh yeah, it's int con, right? Or no, int and dex. Interesting. Your prof bonus plus your int mod is your spell attack modifier. Okay. First level and every artificial level thereafter. Artificer illustration, optional grading proficiency, blah, blah, blah. Yep. Okay, occupational lore. Alchemist gives you nature proficiency, advantage on checks made to identify acids, essences, oils, reagents, venoms, magical residues. Okay. Apothecary. Survival. Advantage on checks made to identify antidotes, antivenoms, balms, edible fungi, healing reagents, medicinal herbs, and salves. Good to know there's an undead subclass. Appraiser. Investigation. Advantage on checks made to identify mundane and magic items. Determine an item's true value. Archivist. History. Recall blueprints, famous inventors, guilds, patents, and workshop traditions. Crook. Deception. Checks made to convince a creature that an item's value is greater than its true value. Handcrafter. Sleight of hand. You have advantage on checks made to perform delicate handiwork. Merchant. Persuasion. You have advantage on checks made to sell items with which you are familiar. Nomad. 2 common languages. Cool. Obsessed. When you complete a long rest, you can spend up to 2 hours of that time working on your creations and still get the benefits of a long rest. That's pretty cool. Poacher. Proficiency with animal handling. Advantage on checks made to extract useful substances from creatures, fungi, and plants. Surveyor. Perception. Advantage on checks made to identify natural terrain, ore veins, quarries, and sources of raw material. Okay, so this is all like stuff that most of this is related to printing money or getting yourself some useful information, like useful materials out of nature and stuff. So foraging, basically. I see that we have inventor's lore, of course, or it's occupational lore here, so that's probably just something that wasn't updated. Spellcasting, tools of the trade, artificial specialty. Has the same copy as the wizard. Okay, yeah, and you choose stuff from the wizard spell list, it looks like. That's probably why. So artificers also have spellbook spellcasting, then, it looks like. And it looks like it's the same sort of mechanism. The examples are different, which makes sense for flavor. And spell scrolls also exist for them, okay. Right, that makes sense. I always thought that artificers were meant to have to use equipment in order to channel magic, or like they chose to do that because it was easier or better or more efficient or more cooler or more powerful or whatever. But so far this makes its own kind of sense. Obviously you got the spell slots and whatnot. Tools of the trade. First level, you can conjure the tools of your profession as temporary arcane constructs. Okay, you can expend 1 first level artificer spell slot to conjure 1 set of tools with which you are proficient in a free hand or in an unoccupied space within 5 feet of you. Magical and lasts for a number of hours equal to your artificer level until you dismiss them or until you conjure another set of tools. Proficiency with Artificer's Hammer, a magical one-handed light hammer that deals 1d4 bludgeoning damage, uses your int modifier for its attack and damage rolls, and has the siege property, which I suppose deals more damage to constructs or something. Doors. Summon or dismiss the Artificer's Hammer as a bonus action. May also serve as a spellcasting focus for your Artificer features and spells. If the hammer is ever lost or destroyed, you can create another one by spending time with the light hammer during a long rest. Okay. So it is your spellcasting focus, which makes sense. And you can double attack with it if you want to. At first level, you choose the profession that defines your work. Your specialty grants you features at first level, second level, fourth level, and fifth level. Alchemist, apothecary, artillerist, artist, automathurge, blacksmith, brewmaster, enchanter, inventor, mortificer, or sigillist. Refer to the later pages of this document for the subclass features you receive at first level. Flash of Genius. Second level, your ingenuity can shape fate. When you or another creature you see within 30 feet of you makes an ability check or saving throw, you may use your reaction to add your intelligence modifier to the roll. You may use this feature a number of times equal to your prof bonus. Okay. I feel like Flash of Genius was like later in the Artificer skill tree, if I remember correctly. It wasn't a second level thing. It was like way later, but it's pretty good, I think. It's a way for them to be supportive, almost in like a way that a bard is sometimes supportive or something, but obviously specifically targeting genius. Genius. It's tool expertise. At third level, your tools become an extension of yourself. Prof bonus is doubled for any ability check you make. Use a tool with which you are proficient. Conjure Workshop. You can also call forth the structure of your trade wherever you travel. As an action, you may expend one first level Artificer spell to conjure the elements of a workshop within a 20-foot cube of open space you can see within 30 feet. Lasts for 8 hours. Appearance and contents reflect your artificial specialty, such as a brewery, enchanting chamber, foundry, laboratory, smithy, workshop, or some combination thereof. The workshop may contain anvils, benches, tables, heat sources, storage tools, shelving, racks, work surfaces, and whatever mundane equipment is necessary to perform your profession. Any conjured elements of the workshop vanished when moved more than 5 feet from the workshop's perimeter. Items you assemble, brew, craft, distill, enchant, modify, repair, and work on within the workshop must still use real components, materials, and time as normal. You enter a flow state while crafting in your workshop. Each hour you spend crafting counts as 2 instead. Pretty cool. Artificer... Oh, it never made sense you could imbue items with spells, but you didn't know how to cast them? What the fuck? What was even the point, then? Well, that's fine music, but not really fitting the vibe we're doing right now, so I went ahead and changed that. Okay. Used to be like 6th level, yeah. I think it's pretty neat to have pretty early. 3rd level, you can challenge yourself to forge bespoke creations of your own design. When you spend time in your workshop, you can choose to undergo the 3 stages of creation. Discuss the nature of your creation with the DM. It should be something relevant to your specialty, but you may venture outside your specialty at a higher cost. Once you've settled on the concept or recipe, you must succeed on 3 intelligence ability checks over the course of 8 hours against a secret DC set by the DM based on the difficulty of the design. This represents the time spent drafting blueprints, studying regions, checking your work, determining the materials required to complete a prototype. If you fail, you may try again after completing a long rest, and you gain advantage on 1 intelligence check you make on your next attempt. When you succeed on designing a new concept, you may add it to your spellbook as a blueprint or recipe that you know, can copy, and can share with other artificers. Interesting. Okay. Once you've done this, you no longer need to undergo the design phase of a prototype unless you make fundamental changes to its function or purpose. With a successful design to work from, you can begin the process of creating an initial draft of your concept. Gather necessary components and materials. You can attempt to assemble the prototype over the course of 8 hours in your workshop. Creating your prototype requires you to make checks in 3 stages. Connect the dots, intelligence, dexterity, sleight of hand check, and at least 1 relevant tool ability check. The DC for those checks is set by the DM based on the complexity of your concept. Even if you fail one of these checks, the DM may rule that you're able to proceed with a minor defect or flaw in the design. On a complete failure, 1/3 of the components and materials required to build your prototype are consumed and you must start over. Take shape. You've laid the foundation of your prototype, but now you must do the real work to bring it to life. You must succeed on 3 relevant tool ability checks to determine how well you assemble or concoct your creation. DC for these checks is set by the DM based on the complexity. Yeah. Half the components. Okay. if you fail at this point. Finalizing the prototype. Your creation takes shape before you and is nearly complete. Must succeed on an intelligence, sleight of hand, and at least one relevant tool ability check as you inspect your creation for flaws, ensure the quality of your craftsmanship, and make final adjustments. Also, I like the idea that if you critically succeed on a point at this point, you could even like make up for a failure earlier. A lot of this is down to dice rolls, so that's going to be some kind of component there. Artificers are, I guess, going to want sleight of hand expertise. Thinking about it. But on a complete failure, you destroy your prototype and all the materials and components required to build your prototype are consumed. However, if you made it to the stage before failing, you have advantage on future checks. Cool. Okay, well, at least there's something there, right? Kind of, sort of replicates the idea of, like, learning how to do stuff or whatever. Successful design. On a success, you gain your prototype as an item in your inventory. The DM decides based on your checks made during its creation whether it functions as you intended or if it possesses some sort of drawback or flaw. Once a prototype is conceived, you become familiar with its design. You no longer need to connect the dots when you create replicas of it, and you only lose half as many materials and components when you suffer a complete failure. In addition, you have advantage on the checks you make during take shape and finalizing the prototype. If your prototype was a concoction recipe, sigil, or some other reusable design, you add it to your list of available options you can make use of it based on the rules of your artificer specialty. When you create a consumable item as part of your prototype, you create a number of those equal to your proficiency bonus. If it is a consumable item that replicates the effect of a spell at 4th level or higher, the DM may roll that you can create only one of those items. Okay, that makes sense. At 4th level, you become exceptionally efficient at the use of and making of magic items. You can attune up to 4 magic items at once. In addition, crafting a common or uncommon magic item takes you half the normal time and costs half as much gold. And at 5th level, you ignore class, race, spell list, and level requirements on the use of magic items unless the DM creates an exception to this rule. Obviously, you can be pretty powerful there. And at 6th level, you gain a bonus to all saving throws equal to the number of magic items you are currently attuned to. Oh, cool. So it actually like helps you to attune to many. In addition, if you would be reduced to 0 hit points but not killed outright, you may immediately end your attunement to 1 magic item. If you do, you drop to 1 hit point instead. Oh, that's kind of neat. Must destroy all of my items first. Okay. So it looks like from this point, we see Alchemist. I'm just going to quickly scroll through here. Apothecary, Artillerist, Artist. So we have all of these, right? And then these are like the specialties. I am going to go back up and start reading some of these, but I'm just quickly scanning to see. Okay, so that effectively is... That's where all of the subclass stuff actually has gone into, by the looks of things. Like, page... The first 4 pages are basically just like the core aspects of the class. But then the subclasses are like where a lot of your efforts go. So when you look at the Artificer and you're making one... I guess Mortificer must have been the subclass that Shambler was talking about doing. Specialty. So, basically, you would only have to read, what? It looks like on average each subclass is 2 pages. You only have to actually read 6 pages, which is a little bit more what we would maybe expect. Okay. I decided to blow my nose for a while, apparently. So Alchemist is actually the subclass for the Artificer that I think they, like, recommended the most or something, is, like, the basic one. So let's take a look at this one. Alchemists turn regions into offense, sabotage, and battlefield control. When you choose the specialty at 1st level, proficiency with alchemist supplies, the herbalism kit, and the poisoner's kit are given to you. You begin play with a bag of holding called the Region Satchel. This satchel can only store components and materials relevant to your specialty, and it has a maximum capacity of 300 pounds. In addition, when you hit with your Artificer's Hammer, you can infuse it with your magic. If you do, you may have it deal an additional 1d4 acid or poison damage. So you can double attack as an Artificer to deal effectively 2d8 damage. It's like 2d4 bludgeoning and then 2d4 acid or poison. Which is pretty interesting because it definitely makes Artificers a bit of a bruiser if they go that route. Each Artificer specialty grants you profession spells at certain levels of this class. A profession spell is always known to you, counts as an Artificer spell for you, doesn't count as your spells known. Grease, Malph's Acid Arrow, Stinking Cloud, Vitriolic Sphere, and Cloud Kill. Okay. Filled regions. At first level, when you complete a long rest, you can create a number of alchemical items equal to your proficiency bonus, provided you have access to tools, enough space to complete your work. Spend at least 1 hour of that long rest doing so. You can create multiple of the same alchemical item or mix and match from the options available to you on the alchemical item table on the following page, as long as they are less than or equal to your Artificer level. You can create additional alchemical items by spending the amount of time and materials shown on the alchemist item table on the following page. Alchemical items you create must be stored in a bottle, flask, vial, or a similar such container. If you provide such a container, the solution remains active until you use. If you lack a container sufficient to hold a solution you can create, you can expend one Artificer first level spell slot per item to conjure a bottle, flask, vial as an arcane construct to the duration of 1 day. If you don't transfer the solution to a proper container or expend another first level spell slot to refresh the duration, the solution becomes inert. The container vanishes, potentially spilling it wherever you had stored it. When you create items from the Alchemist item table, you must follow the requirements noted on the table for those items. You gain access to more powerful and exotic items as you gain higher levels in this class. Okay. So this is basically your downtime action. Like, Artificer is doing a lot of stuff that is related to downtime. Might be a hot take, but I actually think there's probably an aspect here that we should be thinking about partitioning off, backporting to the other classes. Legislating things or adding rules that can be taken or like you can take or leave these rules, but they govern what you do during downtime, and basically making downtime an aspect of the game is something that I think would really benefit things, because part of why games can be so combat heavy is because the rules related to doing things out of combat are really loose, ill-defined, and I mean, like, forget about combat. Just the rules that are related to your adventure part of the actual play time. Like, if you're not interrogating a guy, investigating a situation, talking to NPCs, having party discussions, fighting, exploring, what are you doing? Well, you sitting down to make camp and all of that is not really a developed aspect of it. But if you need to be on the lookout for supplies, or you need to forage for these kinds of supplies or whatever, even if it's just theater of the mind shit that is all resolved through spoken word, it could easily be something that, like, leads to further roleplay or even further discovery. So, if the Artificer is on the lookout for a bunch of stuff, but prior to his long rest, like, that would make some sense. Spend an hour for everybody to do a downtime action prior to their long rest. That would make some sense. And so adds a little bit more life to the party, I think. Recro, I hope you're doing okay heat-wise, man. It's pretty bad here. And so I imagine it's pretty bad there. What the fuck? Why is it so expensive to get an air conditioning unit? God damn, son. I bought mine for like $90. And it's tiny, but it's just a window unit. I guess you must have done some kind of heavier duty shit. All right. Quick mixtures. At second level, you find yourself in a pinch, and if you find yourself in a pinch and have no alchemical items remaining, you can expend a first level artificer spell slot as an action to create a mimicry of one first level alchemical item you can create. Must use it before the end of your turn, or it vanishes without effect. Your alchemical items have one use of a one-time action. You may throw it as a bonus action instead. Okay. Oh shit! It's huge. All right. Well, fair enough. Not a window unit then. Okay. Potent chemistry. At fourth level, when you deal damage with one of your alchemical items, you may roll one additional damage die and add it to the total amount of damage dealt. Okay. Damage dealt by your alchemical items ignores resistance to acid and fire damage. Pretty big right there. Master of Mixtures. At fifth level, when you complete a long rest, you can create one additional alchemical item at third level or lower, without expending materials or components, save for any necessary bottles, flasks, phials, or vials. So you just basically can do it because you're so good at it, basically. That's pretty neat. Forgo any of these alchemical items to instead combine the effects of those items into a single mixture. When you do so, a single mixture can't contain more effects than your prof bonus, and if you choose the same effect multiple times, the effect's potency only increases by 1 degree of potency, damage by 1 die, save DC by 1. Okay. You can also spend materials and components as part of your normal crafting to mix effects this way. So basically you can combine stuff, which is pretty neat. Unless otherwise noted, using an alchemical item requires an action. Thrown items have a range of 20 proficient, 60 not. Something like that. I forget what the far range is. And any saving throw called for by an alchemical item uses your artificer save DC. Crafting an item requires 2 hours of work for each of its levels, and that work yields a batch of that item equal to your prof bonus if the item is third level or lower. Work towards items of 4th level or higher yields a single output of that item. Of course, we have to remember that 2 hours of work is 1 hour of work if you're in your workshop, but you're probably not sleeping in your workshop, so it can't be part of your long rest. That was the field regents, right? Supposed to at least 1 hour of work, yeah. Oh, okay, gotcha. Thank you. So these are obvious. I mean, these are obviously going to have like area of effect stuff. Like it's a single target. I like Alchemist's Fire. That's pretty cool. Pretty expensive, but hey, you need to have some reason to have lots of gold. Universal Solvent. Disintegrate into nothing. Beware. 96 acid damage. Holy shit. That's some pretty powerful shit there. The animating blight, I guess, is what Shambler is talking about here. Rises as a zombie. Pretty cool. Pretty neat, actually. Apothecaries are masters of recovery, enhancement, senses, and debilitating toxins. Choose a specialty of first level. You gain proficiency with the herbalism kit, alchemist supplies, poisoner's kit, and medicine. Bag of holding called the physician's satchel. 300 pounds. And it's fire or poison damage. For your additional damage there. Right, yeah. Well, I mean, I figure if it's like the grease spell and stuff like that, that's pretty useful for being able to just chuck stuff at people. And I think if you're rolling an artificer, you probably, and you choose alchemist, you get, or I guess like field remedies also exists here. Like you basically could run this a few times or whatever and choose to start with like 3 days worth of items done this way. And by days, I mean like first level, like you spent 2 hours each day for 3 days making whatever, you know? Oh, that's pretty neat. Though I don't know that for sure because I haven't seen all of the potential options. But... Okay. Profession spells, detect poison and disease, lesser restoration, revivify, death ward, greater restoration. Okay. Salton Injector. Cool. Right, I was thinking 3 first level items. Because 3, dude. Second level, you can do that. Okay, that's pretty good. Kind of a template there, you know, you got the remedies as well. Master of Remedies, FF level, blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, so you can mix these, right? Or is this the same thing? Yeah, combine them. That's pretty neat. So, okay, one thing I am observing here is obviously there's a lot of the items that are a lot of really cool items that artificers are capable of creating, even from level 1, which is pretty neat. But obviously, a big part of the class appears to be downstream of the Great Labors, right? So this seems to be like a significant component of the class, and that's stuff that's supposed to be like that's clearly something that's supposed to be related to the like that's you making your Iron Man suit or whatever, you know what I mean? That's you making anything that's meant to be a key component of your character. Like your character has to almost like okay, when you're familiar with a class and you've got a concept for a character that's downstream of that, then you probably want to look at your artificer great labor. You want to look ahead to that and say my character has aspirations to create something at least like a couple of things that are adjacent to this concept. And that can be really cool. That can be pretty interesting. So the idea was to whet the player's interest with the item tables as examples, and for the item tables to be a guideline for the DM to adjudicate what the player should be able to make at each level. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, stuff like that, it's pretty cool being able to make even smaller, lower scale things just because, like, actually, what I really would like is, you know, something that makes them slip on a banana peel or whatever. So I'm basically I'm looking at the components of this class so far, and I'm seeing a world where I mean, there could be you could have a game, be it a tabletop game or an actual video game or whatever, where every like artificer is the only class, so to speak, and the subclasses are all of the specialties. And it would still be pretty like rich, but obviously the great labor thing is highly customizable and something that you can really only get access to in a tabletop context because you need to be able to there aren't extreme guidelines to it. You can't solve it in a computerized way. So. Head walkie-talkies. That's a good question. Maybe 3Crow has an idea for you. Artillerists are bombardiers, gunners, and siege engineers whose work stems from a deep-seated desire to destroy. You choose a specialty: smith's tools, woodcarver's tools, mason's tools, and martial ranged weapons. Demolition sack is your bag of holding. Fire or thunder damage, makes sense. Catapult, shatter, fireball, wall of fire, and cone of coal are your spell. Okay. Quick payloads. Arcane cannon. Medium siege weapon is an arcane construct. AC 18, 25 hit points, lasts for 1 hour. Manning the siege weapon to make a ranged spell attack against a creature you can see. 36 bludgeoning, fire, piercing, or thunder damage. Your choice. Dude, that's pretty powerful at 2nd level. But you're only expending a 1st level spell slot. Yeah, add more damage to the damage die, and third level or lower. Additional 1d6 damage. Okay, brutal crits. Yeah, yeah. So it looks like Arcane Cannon, you have to expend it as an action. And so you're investing all of your efforts for one turn into something else, so that does make some sense. But I'm guaranteeing you it's going to be useful. If you can prepare to do it in a good spot, you just got to hope that it's not going to be backfiring on you. Breaching charge. Flashbang. Fuck yeah, dude. A polyweight adhesive. Artists are artificers of dream and image. Illusions so vivid that for a time they can be forced into reality. Artist satchel. Hammer is psychic damage. Cool. Silent image, phantasmal force. Major image, phantasmal killer, dream. At second level, your illusions can briefly become real. Whenever you cast an illusion spell or activate an artist item, creates an illusion, you may, as a bonus action, while that illusion is within 60 feet of you, make that illusion real for 1 minute with a number of first level spell slots. Realized illusion becomes an arcane construct with AC 14, hit points equal to 10 per spell slot expended, and the immunity to the blinded, charmed, defeated, deafened, exhaustion, frightened, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, and prone conditions. Only one of your illusions can be realized at a time. If you realize another, the previous one immediately returns to being intangible. Your realized illusion acts on your initiative immediately after your turn. On its turn, it can move up to 30 feet and use its action to make one melee spell attack. Illusion uses your spell attack modifier for attack rolls, 1d6 plus your spellcasting ability modifier, force damage on hit. Okay. Realized illusions gain resistance to non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage, and attacks deal an additional 1d6 force damage and have brutal crits. And at 5th level, you can create one additional artist item. You can realize one illusion at 5th level or lower once per long rest without expending spell slots. Pretty good. Dude, the amount of shit you can pull with some of these items. If I ever make Artificer NPCs, or I should say when I make Artificer NPCs, y'all gonna be really confused, because that could be so many other things too. Like just in default 5th edition or whatever, just in default D&D world monster library. So that'll be interesting, alright. Automathurge. Marry spellcraft to moving machinery, building constructs that serve as partners and engines of war. You choose a specialty at first level. Blah, 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 blah. It's smith's tools, tinker's tools, leatherworker's tools, mechanist's satchel. 1d4 fire damage. Alternatively, when you construct with your artificer's hammer, you may choose to restore hit points. Hit a construct. Okay, yeah. 2d4 plus your int mod instead of dealing damage. Okay. Unseen servant, magic weapon, tiny servant, summon construct, animate objects. Okay. First level, you build a medium construct companion. Your construct levels with you and represents your life's work towards the engineering of autonomous life. Construct's hit points increased by 10, gains listed abilities or features on its stat block. Oh, okay, so you get to have a couple of different guys here. Okay. Neat. Construct uses your prof bonus for its attack rolls, saving throws in which it's proficient, and skill checks in which it is proficient. Second, 4th, and 6th level, it also gains an ASI, increase one ability score of its stat block by 2, or 2 other ability scores by 1. When you take your turn in initiative, you may choose at the beginning of your turn whether your construct acts immediately before or after your turn. On your construct's turn, it can spend its movement to perform one action from its stat block. Otherwise, you may have it take the dodge, help, or hide actions. If your construct is reduced to 0 hit points, it becomes incapacitated, must succeed on a death saving throws, or risk being damaged beyond repair. Use your Artificer's Hammer to strike the construct, stabilizing it and restoring its hit points. If your construct is destroyed, you can rebuild it during a long rest at no cost, provided you have access to your tools and enough suitable scrap metal or component parts. If you are reduced to 0 hit points or fall unconscious and your construct can see or hear you, it stops whatever it is doing and acts only in the interest of preventing further harm from befalling you. Okay. This is a pretty cool deviation from the other subclasses in that respect. First level, when you complete a long rest, you can create a number of Automathurge items equal to your prof bonus. Additional Automathurge items. If you lack a casing sufficient to hold an Automathurge item, you can create. Yeah. Okay. Construct can activate one augment attached to it as any part of it. It's part of any action that it can take. It takes on its turn. The construct can activate 2 of its augments at 3rd level, and the construct gains resistance to non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. It has a melee and ranged weapon attack. If you find yourself in a pinch, no Thaumaturge items remaining. Yep, okay. At 4th level, when you do battle alongside your construct, your prowess flourishes. When your construct takes the attack action on your turn, you may spend your reaction to command it to make one additional attack against a creature within its range or reach. In addition, you may create... when a creature provokes an opportunity attack from you, while it is within the range of or reach of your construct, you may spend your reaction to command your construct to make a weapon attack against that creature. Okay. When you complete a long rest, you can create one additional Thaumaturge item of 3rd level or lower. Yep. So there's a lot of... Yeah, so you can attach these to your constructs, and then... Was there a limit to how many constructs... How many things you can attach here to your construct? It's pretty cool to have that, though. Contingency core. 12d6 fire damage, be knocked prone. And your construct is obliterated beyond repair. Pretty good. There might be a limit in there you can't recall. I don't see any limit, but... That's a pretty cool one, though. I like that a lot. Right. I think that's fair. Blacksmiths master the forge, shaping weapons, armor, shields, tools, cloaks, and gear into superior instruments. Heavy armor, martial weapons, smith's tools, leatherworker's tools, and weaver's tools, smithy satchel, fire, lightning, or thunder damage. Your profession spells are Searing Smite, Heat Metal, Elemental Weapon, Fabricate, and Creation. Cool. Very cool. Yeah, Forge works. Use your Quick Temper feature. You can instead create a mimicry of 1 second level blacksmith item by expending 2 first level spell slots. Okay, cool. And then you can also, it lasts for longer too. Temper 1 weapon, 1 suit of armor, or 1 shield until the end of your next long rest. That item gains a +1 bonus attack damage rolls if it is a weapon, +1 bonus to AC if it is armor or shield. This bonus applies even if the item already has a bonus and can increase the Items total bonus above +3. Only one item can benefit from the feature at a time. Cool. And then you got blacksmith. Bolt these rivets onto a suit of armor or shields. So this is the, I'm gonna turbo buff my party's equipment and my own equipment. This is that guy. This is the guy that you want as like an NPC artificer ally in particular. Or if you want to be the NPC. Listen, Three Crow even said he wanted to actually be a mason harvesting resources. So the guy might not want to do this, but in general, this is a pretty neat one. Turbo brutal crits for oil or lethality. +3 bonus to attack and damage rolls for 1 hour if you're doing the masterwork one. That's pretty cool. For 1 hour, any creature wielding that weapon has advantage on attacks made against celestials, dragons, fiends, giants, monstrosities, and undead. And they can turbo brutal crit. That's pretty neat. Brewmasters are magical vintners, battlefield distillers, and masters of enchanted drink. When you choose a specialty at first level, brewer supplies, cooks utensils, and the herbalism kit. Get a magic cask, max spellcasting focus. Artificer's hammer, you can fuse it with your magic. 1d4 cold or fire damage. Tasha's caustic brew, dragon's breath, tidal wave, watery sphere, cone of cold. Is this the Pandaren Brewmaster class? First level, when you complete a long rest, yeah, you got your brews. You got your brews. Bottle cast drought. Raft. Flask, skin, jug. Some similar such vessel. Okay, this is... imbibe this ale, gain 2d6 plus 2 HP. Oh shit, you can give people breath weapons! That's pretty cool. Dude, Brewmaster is actually a pretty hype guy to have as an ally. Because you basically go for like, check this out, guys. All right, we're about to, like the Brewmaster shares a knowing look, a stern, grim look towards the Weapon Master and gives him a nod. And then the Weapon Master produces a fucking flame gullet stout and downs it quickly. Then gives him a thanks as they roll for initiative. And then, yeah, that's pretty cool. There's some good shit in here. Thunder Belcher Seltzer. Swollen belly for 1 minute. During this time, it can use its bonus action to unleash an ear-shattering burp. Each creature within 15 feet of it must succeed a con saving throw. Suffer 2d6 thunder damage and become deafened. That's pretty good. One thing that's really cool about the, and it's something that I think is true of a lot of the classes, maybe all of them, but I haven't really been thinking about it as often for the whole thing. Yeah, I agree, Shambler, I agree. But one thing that I think is pretty neat is like looking at these classes, and particularly the Artificer subclasses so far, and imagining I have to make a boss fight out of these classes, like a character with this class is the boss fight, and just fucking, you think you know a guy, and then he walks out with a fucking swollen belly and starts burping at you to deal damage. He burps and he drinks, and he burps and he drinks. Fear his fucking gullet, dude. Enchanters are jewelers, rune setters, and artificers of refinement who turn ordinary objects into magical treasures. Jewelers, tools, calligraphers, supplies. Jeweler's loupe. Or loupe, I don't know how to pronounce that word, I'm not French. Identify as a ritual. Okay. Focus and focus for your enchanter features. Acid, cold, fire, lightning, thunder, or poison damage. Identify, locate object, glyph of warding, fabricate, and creation. Forge enchantment. Oh, okay. So this is your more de facto default kind of artificer, I feel like, with the enchanter side of it. Fabricate an arcane construct replica of an appropriate item for the enchantment. Replica lasts for the duration of the enchantment, then vanishes. Okay. Have a number of active temporary enchantments equal to your prof bonus. This enchantment created immediately fades otherwise. Second level, your magical workmanship becomes swift and precise. You can create the enchantment with your Forge enchantment feature as a bonus action. If one of your enchantments would normally require an action to activate, the creature using that enchanted item may activate it as a bonus action instead. Okay, cool. That's pretty neat. Fourth level, your enchantments cling firmly, and their convenience costs less. Enchantments you create with your Forge enchantment feature have a day-long duration, unless they are used or ended sooner. In addition, when you have no suitable item to hold an enchantment, you need to expend one. You only need to spend one first level spell slot, great replica, instead of the usual amount. Oh, okay, cool. At 5th level, your magic can be fused into objects permanently. That's pretty good. 8 hours working on that item. And double the normal number of first level artificial spell slots required to create an enchantment. Or GP per level of the enchantment. If you do, the enchantment becomes permanent until dispelled or the object is destroyed. You must spend this time and materials for each enchantment applied this way. Object permanently enchanted this way becomes a magic item. Permanent first level enchantment creates a common magic item. Second is uncommon. Third is rare. Fourth is epic. And fifth is wondrous. If you may create any number of permanent magic items this way so long as you can afford the time, spell slots, and materials required. Okay, cool. Any creature carrying, equipping, or wielding this item can cast the cantrip as an action. Yeah, Artificer cantrip is really cool. Sharing your spells out that way. You get first level spell as well. Pretty cool. And being able to do this in the midst of battle is also obviously very powerful. So, might be the most flexible Artificer subclass. Alright guys, we are at the end of my time. Managed to get to 22 of 27, because a lot of it was, item tables, which I glanced over and took a look at overall, but obviously pretty chunky guy. We got Inventor, Mortificer, and Sigillist. I think those are it. Yeah, we're regrettably, we're pretty close to being done, actually, but I do have to go and take care of my dog at my mother's place, so I don't have spare time to just kind of pull this out. However, this does mean that this will be pretty easy to finish off, and then we can move on to the Ranger and the Sorcerer. Those are the next two that I'm going to be doing. I don't have an exact date of when I'm going to go ahead and do that. Might be able to do so on Tuesday, because that's the next day I don't have Cosmonarchy casting, shift work, or big prep related to stuff. Like tomorrow I'm going to be doing tabletop stuff, but it's going to be prepping for the session that we have Saturday, so I can't really guarantee that I'll have enough spare time to do this. But yeah, I know it's not about willingness. I would love to, like I said, but yeah, I gotta go take care of the dog on a schedule. He's got to eat his dinner and all that. So, but yeah, cool stuff. I appreciate all the work that went into this. Clearly, a lot of thoughts. I feel like the work that needs to be, like, the subclass, I think, or the class of the Artificer ought to be wrangled in a sense of, like, we're talking, the Artificer, probably we need to run it for a little bit, get it to, like, 2nd level at the very least to see how it's rolling. And see what happens there. So, but overall, I like the direction of it. I think it's definitely got a distinct gameplay pattern and a very different kind of flavor. So I appreciate that about it. I'm gonna think about this one a little bit more. I don't see anything that I look at and think that's OP or that's unreasonable, unrealistic, whatever. I am not entirely sure, because there's so much to the subclasses. I'm not entirely sure how one character looks for this. But, part of my exercise in learning these classes is building NPCs with them. And so at some point I will do so. And then I will populate my location with them and stuff. And, for a couple first levels, obviously I got to add it to Foundry and stuff in the first place, but see what I can do there. And think about, like, even from the context of, or the concept of doing an NPC build, like, what does it look like? So that's my plan for now. But I will be back next week for some more of this. We'll get through the rest of the Artificer, do the Ranger, and then if we have time, we'll do the Sorcerer in the same session. And then after that, it'll be up to 3Crow to tell me what other ones he wants me to look at next, because I'll be churning through them. So I look forward to seeing you guys on that stream. I look forward to seeing you guys this weekend for the tabletop stuff. And yeah, as mentioned, ko-fi.com/pornogotabletop. If you want to get in on the action, I'll be doing other donor tasks pretty soon as well. So, GG.